So, hello, welcome to this little demonstration, office hours, and what's new in application. Um, if you are new to the application community, welcome. And if you're an existing member of the application community, it's great to have you back. Today is September 28th, and last week we actually launched a new version of application version 1.0.0. So this has been our first major launch, and there's been a lot of changes from just the things that we had maybe a month or two ago to what's going on today. And so I wanted to take the time to kind of show you guys what's new and what's good with application. So in case you didn't know, Application is a flexible, open source Node.js app development platform. It's designed to help you build production-ready Node.js backends without wasting time on repetitive coding tasks. So with Application, you're able to easily create data models and configure role-based access controls with a simple and intuitive UI or with the CLI that we provide. Additionally, you're able to continuously push your generated application to your GitHub repository, and you get a Docker container with your database, a Node.js application, as well as a React client. Pretty much everything you need to get started. So Application generates production-ready, self-documented GraphQL and REST APIs for all of your data models. The APIs are generated with authentication and authorization baked in. It also does all of this using modern and trusted tools that you can see are used by massive tech companies. Some of the tools include Nest.js, and this is the framework that we're using to build efficient and scalable Node.js server-side applications. Additionally, we use Prisma. Prisma is so we can make it easy to run CRUD commands against your Postgres database. There's Apollo, so you can use GraphQL to write your CRUD commands. We use Swagger to visualize, document, and test REST. So you can visualize, document, and test your REST APIs. We use Passport.js to handle authentication securely. And everything is generated in TypeScript, so you have a type-safe environment and code base. So using Application, you can quickly stub out your backend and use it right away. Building a project with GitHub, awesome, perfect, because we can continuously sync these changes to your application backend as pull requests to a GitHub repository. And also, at the end of the day, you actually own your code. If you need to make changes to your code, go for it. Absolutely. If you run it on GCP, AWS, or Azure, go for it. Awesome. You can run your code anywhere you want. You're not locked in, which is a beautiful thing. So, what's new and what's good? Well, one of the things that we are really excited about is that we're trying to provide enterprise-grade production, readiness, and scale. And one of the ways we're doing this is with support for microservice and monolithic architecture. So that way we can help you build scalable platforms supporting multiple projects. Additionally, we want to help with fast development cycles. So we have continuous GitHub sync where whenever you make changes to your backend on Application, we'll create pull requests on GitHub with all the updates that you made on Application. We're also looking to increase developer productivity and efficiency. So we do this with monorepo and polyrepo support, depending on how your projects are configured. And we also improved our user console. That way you have a better developer experience. And we're doing all this using some of the best practices when it comes to security and performance. And finally, one of the things that we're really proud about is the flexibility to build any service that we provide. So we provide highly customizable code generation, and that's with modular code generation on a project or service-based basis. Additionally, we have a plugin support. So if there's any feature or functionality that you're looking for that the core product doesn't provide, there's going to be plugins available to kind of add that functionality you're looking for. So let's get started and let's try to build something. So here I am on application.com. I'm going to click login, and I'm going to log in with GitHub. This will take a second. And once we're logged in with GitHub, we'll see my application account. On the left-hand side, I'm going to click the workspace dropdown, and this allows us to toggle between our workspaces. For this demo, I'm going to create a new workspace, and we'll just call it What's Good. So when the new workspace is generated, a default application is created for it. So this is our sample project, and this is what we're going to be working from. Okay, so we have our sample project, and as of right now, there's nothing to it. So we're going to want to create our first service. So let's go to the top right and click Add Resource. It's going to be a service, and we're going to use one of the sample projects, which is the order management project. Once order management is created, we can check out our entities, and you'll see that we have everything to manage customers, orders, products, and more. But one thing we want to do is we probably want to rename this because sample service isn't that good. So we'll just jump into the settings and we'll rename it to e-commerce. Finally, we can click Commit Changes and Build, and this will save all the changes. So we have our new service, our e-commerce service created. As I mentioned, any and all changes that we have, we can set this, sync this constantly with GitHub. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is connect this project, the sample project, to GitHub. So here on GitHub, you can see that I have an empty workspace. What we're going to want to do is connect this workspace to the application project. So let's go back to application, and I'll click Connect to GitHub in the bottom left. This will take me to the GitHub sync page, and now I can click Connect to GitHub over here as well. So what you're not seeing over here is a little prompt that's telling me to install an application to a GitHub workspace or profile. But don't worry, it's not too difficult a thing to do without seeing it. With us linked to the demo's workspace, we can now link this application project to a GitHub repository. In this case, we'll create a new one called Sample Project. If we went back to the GitHub workspace to take a look, give us a second, you can see that there's a new repository in this workspace that I created. If I click at it, we'll see it's just an empty repo with a README. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the application UI, and we're going to click Rebuild. Patrick, I am sorry, we don't have screen only. Unfortunately, you have to see my face. Though, Sarav, if you want, maybe you can do it as screen only, just so it's a little bit bigger, because I'm realizing maybe it's not too easy for everyone to see. Sorry, Patrick, hold on. Does that look a little bit better for you? Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay, so we clicked, so we rebuilt our application. We rebuilt the application to sync our project to GitHub. So let's take a look to see what that looks like, syncing this project. So here's that sample project that we created. We can see that there is a new pull request. If we click on the pull request tab, we can go into the pull request, and we can see that there are 342 file changes. If we click on that, we can see all these new files created. There's a lot of stuff for an initial application project. So let's go into the conversation, and let's merge this pull request. Beautiful. Our changes have been synced. Let's go to our code view, and we can see that we have our admin UI folder and our server UI folder, which is what we need to run our application project. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so we've seen that how the changes that we make or the work that we do on application.com can be synced to GitHub. So the next thing that we're going to do is we discussed that application now supports a monolithic architecture and a microservices architecture. And right now we have just one service, which is the e-commerce service, which is handling orders and customers and stuff like that. And we can kind of consider this our monolithic architecture because it's just one project or service that's handling everything right now. But we can support microservices, and we can have different services that handle different things. And that's going to be the next thing we're going to do. So let's create a new service which is going to handle emails, turning our project from a monolithic architecture, monolithic architecture to a microservice architecture, kind of, keeping it simple so it's not complicated. So we're going to create a new service. We'll just use the Scratch no templates because that should be fine. The problem is, though, right now, both services are saved into the same space. So this email service is going to be saved to like server and admin UI, as well as our e-commerce service. So we're going to go into our settings, we're going to go to base directories, and we're going to actually tell application to where we want each one of these services code to be saved to. So for our email service, we'll use packages email server or packages email admin. And if we jump back into the e-commerce service, we can do the same thing. Jump into the settings, click on base directories, and we can say where we want the e-commerce stuff to be saved. So that'll be packages, e-commerce server, and packages e-commerce admin. And I do realize in this video that there is a couple of typos. I fix this behind the scenes. Do not stress about it too much. So let's commit those changes and build and see what's good. So the next thing we're going to want to do is check GitHub. We commit the changes. Let's see what changes actually happen because of this new service that we created. So when I clicked commit and build, all of these changes, the new service, the new directories, and where we're structuring the files are automatically pushed to GitHub in the form of a pull request because we're always syncing with GitHub, so we're never behind or out of sync. You can see that there's two PRs, and we're going to take a look at the first pull request, and we can see that there's 342 files changed. Why? Well, initially we created our application project with just one service, which was handling the e-commerce stuff, and so that was saved to server and admin UI. And here we're changing what folders those are being saved to. So that's it. Like, there's no actual code changes. It's just directory changes. The next pull request is for our other service, the new service, which is our email service. And you can see we have our packages email admin folder, and we have our packages admin server folder. So this is our new services. And with both of these, all we really want to do is merge these pull requests. So we'll merge in the email service, and let's go back to our pull requests. We'll go back to the changes in the e-commerce, and let's merge that pull request. Nice. All right. So all the changes are in GitHub. Now in our GitHub, we have a packages email server, packages email admin, packages e-commerce server, packages e-commerce admin. This is all to handle multiple services. But another one of the cool features that I mentioned is that we also provide polyrepo support. So right now, everything is mono repo in the sense that everything's being saved into one repository. But let's say there's different teams and different projects working on different things for whatever code base we're working on. And so we might want to save these different services or projects into different repositories. Well, we can do that. That's not too hard. So let's take the email service that we created and let's give it its own repository. That way we can have do polyrepo. So let's go to our e-commerce. We'll go to connect to GitHub. And right now we can see that the email service is being synced to the sample project. We're going to override this default settings. And just like before where we were able to link to a project or create a new repo, we're going to create a new repo for the email service. And so we'll call it sample project email. So let's create that project. And we're going to click rebuild. So let's jump into GitHub. We can see that there's a new, we saw that there's a new repository called sample project email. It's empty, just with the README. Make sure we click the rebuild, and we can see that there's a new pull request here. If I check the pull request, I can see that there's 178 files. And these are all the files that we saw in one of the previous pull requests to create the email service in the sample project repository. So I can merge these changes, and now we have application this application project on two different GitHub repositories. The e-commerce is running on the sample project repository, and this email service is running on sample project email repository. But for the sake of this demo, we don't need to do that. So we're going to turn off this override. We're going to keep everything in just one repository for now, just to keep things simple for the sake of the demo. So one of the other really cool things that I mentioned, and this is probably one, in my opinion, the best parts of the new version of Application, is our support for plugins. Now this one is going to require a pre-recorded video, so give me a second. Boom. Let's take this to full screen. Okay. So we're going to go to our home, and before we get started, we're going to add a resource called Message Broker. The reason for this is because one of the plugins that we have is a Kafka plugin, which allows our different projects to be able to communicate with each other. And in order to do that, we need our message broker. So in our Kafka message broker, we're going to create a new topic, which is just going to be new order. The idea of this is what we'll have is when a new order is created by the e-commerce project, we're going to notify the email project. And we're going to use our message broker to be like, hey, here's a new message, or here's a new order that the email project can then handle. So let's switch to our e-commerce. And on the left-hand side, we're going to go to plugins. And this is where we can install some of the new, install new plugins that provide new functionality. So you have the ability to install a MySQL database. So you can use MySQL instead of Postgres. You can use passport JWT authentication, basic passport authentication. And for this case, we're going to use Kafka to be able to communicate between our services. With Kafka installed, let's go to our connections on the left-hand side. We can see the message broker we just created, and we're going to enable the message broker. Okay, so here's our new order topic, and what we're going to have is that our e-commerce project is going to be able to send a new message, and we're going to set that up so when there's a new order, we can send that message. Checking out our sample project, the email project, we'll go to plugins, and we're going to install Kafka as well. And then we'll go to our connections, and we'll configure this so it's going to receive messages of the topic new order. Beautiful. So you can see on the right hand side, all these changes are here. So let's click. Come on. Yep, there we go. Let's commit our changes and build. And if we go back to GitHub, we'll see that there's new pull requests. And this is just enabling Kafka on the email project as well as the e-commerce project. So 9 files changed for our email project. This is all just enabling or setting up Kafka. So you can see that it creates a new Kafka module, a Kafka service, and creates an enum for the topics. I'll show you a little bit more of that later, but for now, let's merge this pull request. And we'll do the same for our e-commerce project. So looking at the changes, again, 9 files changed, setting some environment variables, creating the Kafka module, the Kafka service, topics. So let's merge that pull request. And that is that. So let me close out of this. And let's show a little bit of code to see what we actually have. Give me a second to get this set up. Okay, is that readable to you guys? Can you see everything going on my screen? I'm realizing that might not actually be a lot to read. Sorry, I'm stalling for a second. Okay, I saw someone said, yes, it's readable, but I want to show actual code to make sure that's still readable. So just give me a second, yes, if it's readable, and if it's not readable, just let me know. Okay, it is readable. Awesome. Give me just a second. So right now, we're going to run these 2 projects, actually. So in the terminal, I'm in the e-commerce server. So I'm going to start the e-commerce server. npm run start debug. And this isn't too important to read. Hopefully you can see it a little bit, but it's not too important. And let's start the e-commerce admin. All right. That's good. So both of these are running. So right now, we don't actually... So here is the e-commerce admin panel. And what we're going to eventually do is we're going to configure it so when a new order is created that we are going to send a message via Kafka on the new order topic that other services that I have can actually consume. So right now, if I just create an order with some random stuff, click save, nothing is really happening other than this order is being saved to my application backend. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set it up so when a new order is created that we can send that message via Kafka. And we have all the stuff for Kafka enabled. So what we're going to do is let's jump into our Kafka service over here. And let's create a new method. So this is going to be our new order method. It'll take a message. Message itself doesn't matter. And for the sake of explaining, we're going to be returning some stuff. Don't worry about that yet, the return. I just need it for the sake of logging information so you can see that it's working. I probably spelled that wrong. Okay. So here is going to be our new order, our new order method, which will allow us to send a new order message through whatever or to whatever service application service we want. So this will take our Kafka client, it's going to emit a message. And so we're going to want to connect it to a topic. Right now we have our new order topic. So we'll import our message broker topics, and we can see that there's a new order topic, which we're going to use. And we'll have our message. So what we created here is a method in our Kafka service, which will take any message that we pass into it, and it'll emit the message to anything that is listening for new orders. Hopefully not too complicated yet. So next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to our orders. We're going to go to our order module, and we are going to import our Kafka module, because when a new order is created, we're going to want to emit a message saying, hey, a new order has been created. So we'll save that here, and that's all running. And finally, let's jump to our order service. So the order service order service extends order service base. If I click on that, it's a lot of complicated code. This is code that's all auto-generated by Amplication. I don't want to read into this too much. So instead of making modifications here, I'm going to make a modification here in the order service. So we're going to create a method here called create. And this is going to take an argument. Not too concerned with the argument right now. And so what this is doing is this is overwriting the create method of the order service base. But we don't want to overwrite it. We kind of just want to intercept it. So we'll access the base that we are extending from with super. We'll call that create method, and we'll pass the args. So this is a great way to intercept when a order is created and before the order service base create method is actually executed. We can intercept it here, and if we wanted, we can run some additional code here and then send that code to our to the actual create method that will create the new order. So this is where we're going to want to actually use Kafka and emit the new order. So let's import or inject our Kafka service. All right, so that's our Kafka service that we're inputting into our constructor. And here we will do this, Kafka. And we can see we have our new order method that we created earlier, the order, and we will pass in the details of the order. So right now, if I run this, this will run fine. The creating of the new order will happen still. But what I want to do, just for the sake of this demo, is showcase that, like, oh, Kafka is actually working. So subscribe. The new order is returning an observable. We're going to subscribe to that observable value. Console log. Kafka message sent. Console log. And okay. So what we have now is we created a method that'll intercept the create of a new order. And what we'll do is that we'll call our Kafka service. We will pass in the order information to the new order method, which will emit the new order. And we're subscribing to that because it's returning an observable. That way we can see if if that interception or that Kafka, if emitting to Kafka worked. So I'm going to go back to the UI that I showed, the admin UI, where we're able to create an order, and just pay attention to our log over here, because here's where you should be able to see that the message has been emitted. So keep the log on the side, go back here. Let's create a new order. Customer, doesn't matter, boom. Quantity 1, price 1. Again, just pay attention here for now. Click save. And here is the log from us trying to emit the message on the new order topic, and we can see that the message was successfully sent. Now, for the sake of digesting the message. That might be a little bit too much work for this demo because we're already at like the 30-minute mark, but I will call it there for now. So I hope you guys enjoyed taking a peek at what's new in application. Obviously, if you're interested in application, maybe you're viewing this on GitHub, not on GitHub, sorry, on YouTube because you're new to application, visit amplication.com. You can click login to get started, or if you want to join our community, we have a join Discord button over here. So feel free to join our Discord where we host these office hours. So you can join us live when we host office hours. You can ask your questions live. Until then, I will say thank you for joining. And because we have time, I'd love to hear from the audience. If you guys have questions, comments, concern, and most importantly, praise. So, yeah, guys, talk to me. What's up? Also, guys, you don't all have to talk at once. And the questions also don't have to be about version 1. It could be about anything application related. Okay, void cupboard, cupboard. Sorry if I'm butchering it. I see you're asking a question about an issue. Let's see. Okay, so you're asking about a issue with the JWT. I'm assuming this is from the JWT plugin. I know that there's a fix in the work. I was talking with engineering earlier today at like my 3 a.m. with a couple of issues that I found with some of the plugins. So I think the JWT, if there are issues with JWT, I believe it's going to be fixed tomorrow. So let's say within the next 24 hours. Don't hard quote me on that. I just believe that to be the case. And if that is the case, I'm confident whoever's handling it should be able to respond to that issue. And typically with any updates we make to the system, all you have to do is click rebuild. You don't have to make changes to your code, and we'll update the code based on the new changes we made. So hopefully that answers that issue. Another issue we see is code download feature removed. Yes, the code download feature was removed, I think. It was either with version 0.15 or 0.16. I don't 100% remember. So now to get access to your code, it's sync with GitHub. Though I believe we may provide other Git services that you can sync with. But for the time, if you want to access the code, it's going to be synced with GitHub. Saurav, I saw that you were typing. Did I make a mistake? I would believe if I made a mistake, so please just tell me. I guess not. Okay. Wait, Saurav. Wait. Okay. I will answer. Pawan, I will answer your question in a second. But Saurav, is it no that I didn't make a mistake, or no because you're screaming like Darth Vader screaming no? Like, did I make a really big mistake? It's not clear to me. Okay, thank you. Pawan, in regards to how to develop a custom plugin, documentation for that is coming along. I want to say in October, we're going to be running an event in kind of conjunction with Hacktoberfest, or at least timing-wise with Hacktoberfest, trying to provide support and incentives to get developers to build plugins for application. So pay attention to the Discord, pay attention to us on Twitter. Information on creating a custom plugin is coming. However, and I will just show you guys a little bit right now. I'm actually going to be lazy. We're going to go into application. Let's go to plugins. We'll view I'm going to use the Kafka plugin as an example. So we have a repo, application, plugins. And if I click source, index, and this is just giving you a peek as to what the plugin development is going to look like. You can see that there's an application plugin class that you will be able to extend from. And then during the creation of an application project, there's multiple like events or lifecycle hooks that you can hook into. So here we have our register method where we are, which is going to return a bunch of events. And so what we're doing is we're returning events for each one of these events. Sorry, we're returning our own code for each one of these events. So here we have create message broker, create service, create package JSON. And so when one of these things is triggered, we can actually run our own code. So right now, everything is created. In this case, this function is being run before the Docker for the server is created. If we scroll down here, this function after create message broker service is run after a message broker service is created. And so over here is the functions or the methods that actually are creating the code. Again, hopefully that gives you like an idea of what's going to happen. But the idea is we're exposing a bunch of lifecycle hooks to which you can intercept and interject your own code into. So there is no documentation yet or a sample guide yet on how to create a plugin. That is coming. That should be available soon. I just wanted to give you guys like a peek as to how things are going to work. Honestly, it's going to be really exciting. I have like a couple of plugins in mind that I want to create. I'll give you guys two that I'm thinking of, and maybe you guys want to create it instead of me because that's like less work for me. One, I want to create a plugin that this is the most useless plugin, but it creates an endpoint automatically called Teapot, which returns a status code 418. I'll show you what that means. HTTP status codes. Response status code. Let's go to our 400s. Let's embiggen this a little bit so you guys can see this at home. Here you go, status code 418. The server refuses the attempt to brew coffee with a teapot. Is it useless? Yes. But I would love to go to any website /teapot and receive this error code. Additionally, another thought that I've had for a plugin, and maybe someone wants to do this, is a way to handle password resets. Because like you can write custom code to do a password reset, and that's fine. But I would love like a plugin that, let's say, integrated with a SMTP server, so we can like automate the process of a password reset. So like if you call the endpoint and let's say pass in a user ID or a user username, that an email can be sent to the user with the URL, and if they click the URL, they're given the option to change their password. That's just something I'd like to see created because, like, yeah, you can write your own code to do this password reset. It's just more work on you, and that's something that can be automated with the plugin. So maybe these are some ideas for next month when we're running our little plugin hackathon event. I might have said too much. I'll stop talking now. Okay. I think that is it. I have been rambling for about 40 minutes. I appreciate you all being patient with me. So thank you guys, and we will say goodbye until next time. Have a great rest of your day.